All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June edition of the Vicksburg Planning Commission and DDA meeting. Time is 7:01. Call this meeting to order. Secretary Cox, will you please take roll call attendance?
Member Weil?
Present.
Member Riashi? Here. Member Blankenhorn?
Here.
Chairman Schenkel?
Present.
Member Cox is present. Member DeBall? Here. Member Bailey?
Here.
And Mr. Kissinger, I didn't see him walk yet.
Here.
All right, thank you. And trust everyone has had time to review this evening's agenda. And assuming you're all good with that, I will call for a motion to approve this evening's agenda.
This is Member Riashi. Motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion from Riashi. Do we have support for that motion?
Bailey support.
Bailey support. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. And there are no citizens in our gallery today, so we will move past citizen comments and right into approval of minutes from our May meeting. Again, trust you've had time to review those, and if there are any comments, please make a motion to approve those minutes.
This is Kissinger, motion to approve.
Motion from Kissinger. Do we have support for that motion?
Member Blankenhorn, I support.
Support from Blankenhorn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. And on to our planning commission items. We have a discussion about a possible project at Vickers Lakeside Tavern.
Yeah, just wanted, we're hoping, at the July, Planning Commission meeting, certainly no later than August, we'll be bringing forth a pretty substantial, there'll be a variance request that will go in front of the council due to the proximity of the water. We've done that for both Apple Knockers and I believe when they put the coffee shop behind Apple Knockers, because the state rules are, I think anything within 100 feet of water would need a variance. So we've granted these in the past, but in a pretty conceptually positive remodeling project or making more of the outside a permanent structure connected to the new building. So just wanted to give the Planning Commission a heads up that working on that behind the scenes and hopefully be able to become more public about it at the July or August meeting. So working with their developer in that, so it's pretty good.
Potential time frame for that?
It hasn't been narrowed down yet.
Okay. All right. Any questions for staff regarding that? All right, we will move on to our DDA portion of our agenda, and we got a couple of budget item for approval.
Yeah, I'm gonna, if I can walk around here, it's easier for me to. If anyone comes running in, someone, yeah, out of the way, you know. So again, this is a fun time of the year, close a fiscal year and prep the next one. I did send to the Downtown Development Board the proposed budget. As in your packet, you could see I went back the previous 5 fiscal years just to show you both revenue and expense trends, and would like to note 5 years ago, and we talked about this for the members out. John's been a longtime member. Colin obviously was back on the council during a lot of those discussions. That if we made a substantial investment in downtown as a public entity, both on our infrastructure and we kept our businesses in town and kept it successful, we would see growth in the downtown development tax revenue. And as you can see, in 5 years, we've gone from just a little over $58,000 total revenue to over almost $107,000. So just shy of doubling that revenue, and the projected trend is that will continue as long as we continue to have a commercial base downtown and our assessed values and everything continue as they're going. But that's a very positive indication of our downtown and moving forward. And obviously we know we're in a couple projects that are being done downtown now with buildings being completely remodeled, and we'll have future tenants in there. So I only see that as going up. Did give the background of what we started 24-25 with, about $143,000. Had expenditures throughout the year. Talked about different things that the DDA tax dollars have funded throughout the years, as well as how they're listed in the downtown plans. Talked about different grant opportunities in a historic manner, as well as the holiday parade. But on to the 25-26 fiscal year. We believe that we will have an unrestricted fund balance somewhere in the neighborhood of $167,000 on June 30th of this month. Some of that money is assigned, but we estimate I do need to, under revenues, this is the estimation of the 25-26 budget that starts in July. We're estimating total revenues, which are not only tax captures, but different grants, and we talk about those, of about $182,500. We're going to carry forward the $147,000, which would mean we have a total cash of $329,500, and we estimate expenses at $314,000, $15,000 under what cash we have. And you'll see in the budget the substantial amount of the $314,000 is $200,000 set aside for the downtown parking lot behind Main Street. I also indicated back in the fiscal year that we had an amount of $125,000 already set aside for that project. We've ended this fiscal year adding to it, and I feel very comfortable that $200,000 out of the $650,000 potential matching dollars we will have in the DDA fund to support that. Specific to programs, they're all narrative out for you, but out of administrative services. And if you have questions, that's how we've done it in the past. If you have a specific question that one of these budget line items, but administrative services is just what is highlighted there. The one substantial is we, as a staff, we had an updated DDA plan in the 24-25 fiscal year. Well, once we put out the plans for rebranding and Parks and Rec, we stopped the process to solicit bids for a DDA plan. To manage 3 of those starting all at the same time just wouldn't have been efficient, and something would have fumbled along the way. So made a decision that we would put that back, recommended in the 25-26 fiscal year, and our plans will be to post that in July, hopefully secure a company by September, and then can have that on an independent track as well to update the DDA plan certainly before June of 26. So that's $20,000. The Economic Development Department is with the Berg Days of Summer and the events and that, we will still do fundraising for those events. The last 3 years, we've averaged about $32,000 in outside donations to hold the events. One gap, we also have, for 3 years, had a foundation grant of $20,000 a year. So that will be a gap we need to make up. That's where the $50,000 worth of budget for those events came from, fundraising $30,000 to $32,000 and that $20,000 grant. So we're looking at different options. I'm very confident that we will have Berg Days of Summer in the summer of '26, but for budget purposes, that's there. The streetscapes department at $200,000 is specifically to the downtown parking lot project on the west side of Main Street. Grant program, I have submitted a grant requesting matching money, but that granting entity doesn't meet for another week. So for purposes of the budget, I recommending $18,000 of DDA money. We will amend it if the grant is awarded. And then our goal is to get the grant parameters out to businesses within the DDA August 1st. We're gonna run it tight. They're gonna have to return it by September 1st. We'll put it forward, our recommendations by September 15th. And it will depend on if it's just $18,000 or $36,000, but our hope is to have, as in the last couple years, one grant worth $15,000, meaning they're investing over $30,000, 2 grants for $7,500, and 2 grants for $3,000. What we have noticed, I'm going to, as staff, be more critical of local business owners that submit for grants and then don't follow through with their project. It's unfair to the other business owners that put in. So we're going to do a lot of vetting behind the scenes and get assurances that businesses will go through with their pledges, because some of them just don't have a very good track record. The transfer to other funds, there's two different, for government, we could keep track of hours of DPW, hours of police officers, hours of overtime that are for events in these type of snow plowing. Municipalities quite often will charge the DDA to plow that snow. Instead, what we have historically done is always done just a flat amount, which is also allowed. And our recommendation is to keep that consistent with what it was this year at $7,500, and keep consistent with the $7,500 that goes towards administrative services. So my time as village manager, Michelle's time as the director of finance, and we added a leadership position, the council last meeting. So we have made a hire that will be formally announced next Monday, and they will not be assigned to the DDA, but they will certainly be involved in interaction with our downtown businesses. So we're going to add a leadership specialist, and it's a full-time position that'll have varied responsibilities in the village. But for the essence of the budget presentation, we're not going to, it'll be a flat fee, administrative fee of $7,500, a flat fee of an additional $7,500 for those police, DPW, and the services that they provide. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Jim, on that grant program, on the facade, the facade grant program.
It's a public benefit.
Public benefit program. On our website, on the Village of Vicksburg website, I went in and tried to get an application for someone, and it's still got the 2021 application on that, under the village forms.
Okay.
So
We can get that corrected tomorrow.
update that if we can.
Well, we haven't created one for this, for the fiscal year because it wasn't approved. So once after, if they're within the DDA district, we'll be delivering it as staff right to
Correct,
them.
but
But
if
they
you go-
should be directed, if someone inquires about the grant, they should be directed to contact us.
Which I have, but I said go on the village forums, and it's still 2020, 2021 on village forums under the website.
Yeah, we can make sure that gets taken
Taken off or something.
because the other one won't get put up.
Okay.
Up because it'll be specific to the DDA boundaries. So
Correct.
we want to ensure that those there's some businesses obviously outside the DDA boundaries that wouldn't be eligible.
Okay. I just had a couple businesses approach me if we were going to do that again this year, and I said, I'm assuming yes, but.
We'll find out tonight at this vote.
Thank you.
Jim, I'm curious about Berg Bucks and the potential revenue from that. Is that,
There's
where is
one,
that?
it's not, it's gonna be mentioned at the presentation on June 30th. We have, but there's revenue for the village. The village won't acquire any revenue. The premise, but we did submit for a grant to be able to fund an incentive program when we launch. So I'm waiting to, by June 20th, I should hear if that was approved or not. If approved, then we would move forward and it would be a 25% match, but the parameters of the company, Yifty, I think is the company's name, would, so someone can't go in and buy $10,000 and get $2,500. It'd be limited maximum of $100 purchase. And that $100 card would be good under federal law for I believe ever. But the $25 card will have a 6-month expiration date, which is within law. And the person purchasing that registers an email and they'll get a monthly reminder, hey, this card needs to be used. So it's, the key date it will be busy times after, if the grant's approved, because I wanted that information before going to the businesses, which I think will help because it's not an expense to the business if the business uses the MasterCard platform. But I'm kind of waiting to make sure we have that incentive money. If we don't receive the grant, it will be my recommendation to the council to not start the program until next fiscal year and submit for the grant again, but we would be in a financial position with the parking lot behind us that we could, if we could make it a 50% incentive or for more money, meaning right now the grant request was for $25,000. So for the first $100,000, it'd be $125,000 of economic impact to village businesses. So those are what's tracking behind the scenes on that.
Okay. Any other questions for staff regarding the fiscal 25-26 budget?
I might have just been reading it a little funky, but on the transfer to other funds section, you had mentioned that it was to be used for snowplows, administrative funding, things like that, transferred into the general fund. But then in the pending staff recommendations attachment, it mentions that will be able to be used with no restrictions.
Now, what we're trying to describe is the $7,500 in the downtown development budget code is restricted and can only be spent on activities or investments that occur within the DDA district. So those snow plowing, DPW policing efforts that are within the we have said that $7,500, which is a very good deal to the DDA versus us trying to keep it hourly or something like that, is an appropriate activity or investment within the DDA district. It's appropriate under the state law to expense money, but once we make that transfer from the $7,500 will then go to the general fund. So when it goes to the general fund, it now becomes unrestricted. So historically, it's not something that was done 10 years ago and prior. So we get to use that money 2 times. It's a unique thing about government. We'll use it once in the DDA district and then move it over to a different bank account and use it for something else. And we do that in every fund. Every last week was the Brownfield Committee meeting met. Their charge off is $5,000. So $5,000 comes out of a restricted Brownfield account into the general fund to cover those services we provide.
Gotcha. That makes sense. It just read strangely to me.
The other, and again, is we put the last 3 years with the events in Berg Days, we put a lot more administrative time and effort in those activities within the DDA district. So that's when I think this is it's at least the second and might be the third year we did an additional $7,500 truly just for Michelle Christian and I's involvement in administering the DDA. And the trade-off there is 10 years ago, they paid someone $68,000 a year. We don't need to travel back in those days, but 5 years ago, they only brought in $58,000. Remember those days, John?
Yep.
So,
It took me a while to figure it out, but I got it.
Okay. So Jim, are you seeking the approval?
yeah, approval
tonight?
of the 25-26 fiscal year DDA budget as presented.
Okay. I will call for a motion on the fiscal 25-26 budget.
Member Riashi, motion to approve the 25-26 fiscal year budget.
Motion from Riashi. Do we have support for that motion?
This is Cox, I support.
Support from Cox. Any further discussion before we do a roll call vote? Hearing none, Secretary Cox, will you please take a roll call vote?
Member Weil,
Member Weil, approve.
Member Riashi,
Approve?
Member Blankenhorn.
Approve?
Let's see, I shouldn't forget him this time, Mr. Kissinger.
Approve.
Chairman Schenkel,
Approve.
Member Cox approves, Member DeBalt,
Approve?
Member Bailey.
Yes.
The second is in our current fiscal year, so we're ending this fiscal year this month, and we make fourth quarter budget amendments. So we have looked at revenues and expenses and where specific have come. How we have done this at the council level is we go through each of the items that have been listed within the packet, and then you are allowed to vote on all of them together versus doing each of these separate. So by approving this, you're approving Michelle, I, and Christian to make these adjustments in the computer system specific to the DDA financing to make sure on June 30th at close of business, we have more revenues in our checkbook than we do expenses. So that's what this is. The first one is, we anticipated $60,000 worth of revenue from Vicksburg DDA. We actually received $67,718.10. So that budget amendment is to put a positive $7,128.10 into that revenue account. The next account is subtracting $1,367.29 from the side of the township collection of DDA. Now, on that, we are going to be made whole, but it's going to come from Kalamazoo County. So someone within our downtown has not paid their taxes. The county will make the village whole, and then the county will deal with that taxing entity to recoup plus. So our overall fiscal situation doesn't take a $1,367.29 hit because we're receiving that money from the county. And that will be in there, so to clarify that. Interest on investment, this is just a protection on our bookkeeping. We actually believe in the final 45 days of calculation, we will exceed this amount of interest on, but we want to ensure that on the books, we lower our estimate. And I'll point out, if we're wrong by $1, meaning if on our books that we submit to the auditors and it demonstrates we've spent $1 more than we received, that could be an auditing comment negatively to the state, and we really do everything we can to protect that. So that we're readjusting it down. The holiday events, this is a movement into line item. Again, it's more of an accounting move. We had estimated the donations, and the donations exceeded 28,000. However, when we presented the budget, it was presented that it'd be in 699,005. As we received the money, it was a better description under the state code 675010. So we received $33,600. That is in that account, and we're saying the one we told you last June we were going to put it in, we didn't, and we didn't because this number describes better that collection of donations for an event like that. Might get down in the weeds a little technical, but that's the reason it was done. And in that, we is the amendment of an actual increase above the 28,000. That's all documented. The promotion and advertising, again, we're taking some money out of reserves and saying we're going to put it in this account because we have Berg Day starting this Wednesday, and we have 4 Berg, or the 11th, 18th, and 25th, and we're going to have expenditures. So this will give us a little bit of cushion in case something unforeseen happens on June 25th. We're going in front of you and saying, hey, you know, if it happens, we're going to have money in that specific account that we could spend it. If something happens, we'll report that back in July. You'll know, hey, this happened and we did it. Predictably, if we all think good thoughts, nothing's going to happen. But again, we just want to be, so we're saying we're going to put 18,500 more into that account just to make sure that we don't have a situation of expenses over revenues. And then you see the two we just talked about, the 7,500 for the administrative expenses and the 7,500 So remember, that's in this fiscal year, so you just approved the next fiscal year. Now this is you're approving, yep, you said it in your June 24 presentation, you'd budget for it. Now we're requesting to move the money from DDA to general fund, following through with that. So that's why it's in the budget amendment to you. And then these will go next week to the council in the same form, because they ultimately have to approve this. So, any question on that? Sometimes they might get too confusing.
Jim, the one that has $7,500 in compensation expense related to the community engagement director.
Yeah, that's just a historical reference point that started with, so that's the year we started doing that administrative expense was 2022, and that's the position, but we no longer have that position. Michelle, I, and Christian have assumed those roles and more.
So I guess the way it's kind of like worded is that in 22-23 budget process, the village council approved basically an ongoing amount of $7,500 to be allocated towards this community engagement director. And since that position no longer exists and it's being fulfilled by you and other staff members, you're recommending to move it to you? So we have to do this every year?
That's the year it started, and it's been done every year with DDA and council approval since then.
Okay. Okay. That was my question. Any other questions for staff regarding the budget amendments for the remainder of this fiscal year? Hearing none, I will call for a motion to approve these budget amendments.
Trustee Kissinger, motion to approve the 2024-2025 fiscal year budget amendments.
Motion from Kissinger. Do we have support for that motion?
Member Weil, support.
While support, any further discussion for staff? Member Secretary Cox, will you please take a roll call vote?
Member Weil,
Approve.
Member Yashi,
Approve.
Member Blankenhorn,
Approve.
Member Kissinger,
Yes.
Chairman Schenkel,
Approved.
Member Cox is yes, Member DeMalt,
Yes.
Member Bailey. Yes.
All right, on to the village manager report.
Sure, the report that I did have was Bird Day starts on Wednesday, so hopefully we'll see. We had we have the 24 picnic tables we ordered last year, and we should be able to, we believe we'll have another 12 we're assembling. Probably we'll get them out before the middle of July, as we have time to put them together. So we just got that equipment in, and one was put together last week, so we're looking forward to it. And the car show is this weekend as well, so pretty busy week for DPW. So yeah. Never talk about the weather till we're standing on the street.
All right, any member comments from the commission?
I got a question for Jim. Do you know what the status of the car wash is?
Yeah, we're, right now, the developer is working with the banking institution, but also the Small Business Association. My last update kind of threw a ninth inning wrench into the process, so they're trying to work that out. But it's with the Small Business Loan, SBA federally, is what's trying to get worked out.
Just hoping I can use it this year.
Yes.
I had one comment too, Jim. The council approved a downtown thing around the Chinese restaurant and the Hideaway.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah, yep, that same as the outline that's down by the distant whistle. It's the same exact boundary, safety type fencing. So we ordered that, Friday. I approved that with the company. And we're anticipating, hopefully, they told me they believed it could be turned around in 30 days. And it'll be a safety barrier that will be in front of like China One and the Hideaway, that bump out, to find that area and protect people from going out into the street, so.
Any further comments? Hearing none, I will adjourn this meeting at 7:36. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.